This film shows how a series of factors can combine to prevent. It is of interest to all technical and cabin crew, and the lessons it highlights, especially during the evacuation, apply to all types of aircraft operations. The film has been made available by the American National Transportation Safety Board. The aircraft was due to operate from San Francisco to Tokyo direct with 199 passengers and 19 crew. The flight was planned from 28 left, as this was the longest runway and was into the wind. The crew did not know until they started taxiing, soon after 1500 hours, that the ATIS broadcast had been reporting that this runway had not been in use due to work in progress since 0700. The captain changed to 28 right, but he was weight limited due to the conditions. This was checked by his ops room, who told him on the RT that 01 right with clearway had no restrictions on takeoff, as there was a zero wind component on that runway at that time. The crew then asked if there was a takeoff restriction at the beginning of 01 right runway. Ops checked with the tower and then reported to the captain that the full length of 9,500 feet was available from the displaced threshold. The chart shows that only 8,400 feet is available from this point. On 747s and VC-10s is to prevent blast damage on the freeway which runs nearby. The flap setting was changed from 10 degrees to 20 degrees. The new bug speeds, however, were not set, although the captain mentally recomputed them. VR should have been reduced by 10 knots. Flight planning conditions were CAV OK, temperature 19 degrees C, wind velocity 316, altimeter 2998. Prior to the takeoff, the tower reported the wind to be 270.22, a loss of 9 knots of headwind component from the planned figure. Weight on takeoff was 321,000 kilos with 134,000 kilos of fuel. The co-pilot called rotate, not because this speed had been achieved, but because the end of the runway was coming up at a very rapid speed. Evidence suggests that the aircraft rotated almost at the end of the paved surface of 01 right. The main landing gear remained on the ground until past the end of the runway, where the body gear collided with the first approach light platform. This drove the right-hand body gear up into the freight hold and lifted the cabin floor a few feet. The left-hand body gear was also damaged. During the rotation, the under fuselage struck several light platforms, the walkways and the handrails. Some 2x2 angle iron, 17 feet long, was driven through the belly and into the cabin, severely injuring 2 passengers and causing extensive aircraft structural damage. The right-hand horizontal stabilizer, which was hit by flying debris, was also badly damaged. Hydraulic systems 1, 3 and 4 were lost, number 1 due to the damaged right-hand body gear, 3 and 4 due to damage to the right-hand stabilizer. The complete slide pack at door 4 left fell to the floor at impact. Slide 4 right and the off-wing section of 3 left were also damaged. Number 2 left is believed to have unfolded too early, and this prevented full extension into the wind. The crew service door slide was punctured by a flailing hose during inflation. The evacuation was successfully completed using the remaining doors. The first pictures are of the approach light pier and the threshold lights for runway 19 left, which the aircraft hit on takeoff. This is where all the main damage to the aircraft was done. The side view of the lighting pier shows clearly how near to the water the aircraft came. These pictures show some of the damage, most of it caused during the takeoff. The right-hand body gear showing how it was driven up through the cargo section and into the fuselage. The tailplane damage was extensive. 2 hydraulic systems were lost here. The tire damage was done during the landing. You will see the fire during the landing sequences which follow. This is a piece of 2x2 angle iron from the lighting pier stuck in the bottom of the fuselage. This piece of angle iron fortunately went through unoccupied seats. The flight lasted about 2 hours while 127,000 kilos of fuel was jettisoned, and the damage just seen was assessed by other aircraft. These are the seats lifted by the right-hand body gear. The aircraft was at a weight of 197,000 kilos as it came into land. With only number 2 hydraulic system, there was only 1/6 of normal elevator control available, and the flare capability was considerably reduced. Only limited brake application was possible, and nose wheel steering was inoperative. During deceleration, the tires on the left wing gear caught fire, but as the aircraft drifted off the runway, this fire was extinguished by dirt. As the aircraft stops, notice that it is only just on its nose wheel. The CFG is well aft. There was no evacuation alarm fitted, and the command to evacuate was inadvertently made on RT instead of PA. Immediately after this call, 2 technical crew members went from the flight deck to the main cabin and found all the passengers and cabin crews still in their seats. They shouted to begin the evacuation, and this is why it took about 30 seconds before the first slide was deployed. Other doors were then opened in sequence down the aircraft. It was about 45 seconds before the first passenger left. Notice that number 2 slide failed to deploy correctly in the strong wind. You can just see that 4 left and 3 left did not come into operation due to takeoff damage. 70 seconds after stopping, with no body gear to balance it, the aircraft slowly tipped onto its tail because the centre of gravity is near the wing gear, and if fuel is jettisoned from the centre tank, as it was in this case, it is likely to be aft of these wheels. The tipping may have been aggravated by passengers moving aft, as only doors 3 right and 5 left and right were available to the passengers in this area. As the aircraft tipped onto its tail, the forward slides became almost vertical, and 8 passengers received serious back injuries using the slides in this condition. As a result of this accident, drills have been changed to ensure that jettisoning does not cause the CFG to move too far aft. In addition, cabin staff are required to ensure that slides 1 and 2, left and right, are not used if the aircraft does tip onto its tail. This is another view of the approach. Again, bear in mind that there is a reduced flare capability due to the hydraulic system's failure. There is a big bounce, and during the landing run, notice the full deflection of the lower rudder, followed fairly soon after by the wheel fire, which is subsequently put out by the dirt. The aircraft then comes to a standstill and can be seen seesawing on the wing gears. The first action which can be seen is the crew service door opening and the slide beginning to inflate. The puffs of smoke always come from this type of slide and occur at the end of the inflation period. The slide did not inflate correctly because it was punctured by a flailing hose. Other slides came into operation, and you will notice that number 2 right slide, which is blown upwards by the strong wind, was able to be used quite normally as soon as a passenger went down it. This accident shows the necessity of applying good airmanship and self-discipline into aircraft operations and illustrates that drills and procedures sometimes need to be amended. All that remains is for you to ensure that you know the drills and procedures and apply them with authority and common sense.